on. We're just getting started. Alrighty. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Okay, so I am introducing this month. We kind of split it up. So I'm doing one or two of the calls this month, and then we've got Courtney doing one, and Breanne's doing one. So I'm really excited because Katie, she entered in the chat. We were talking about what we really feel like you guys, what we wanted to cover more. And we really wanted to talk to people about how to bring up the business and really talk about the business. And this is something that if you're just getting started in doTERRA, it's good to learn, to just get comfortable with that. But especially if you've been doing doTERRA, if you've enrolled more than 10 people, I would say that this is a skill that you definitely need to have. And one that I really do feel like is a skill. So for some of us, it might be right away we feel comfortable talking about it. And for others of us, it might take us a while to get comfortable with it. But I really feel like there's no substitution for just doing it. And then that's one of the ways that you get more and more comfortable with that. All right. So I like to use the script that is found in that the essentials manual, essential training manual, because I really feel like it helps me to just be able to make sure that I followed through with something. So some of the scripts, and we talked about this a little bit last week because there were some questions that came up around this. But at the end of like a consultation, or you can call up people, just customers, and you just have a conversation with them. And towards the end of that conversation, you just say something like, you know, I never want to assume, so I ask everybody. And that is just seriously one of the easiest things. Or, hey, I'm curious, would you be interested in, right? So I never want to assume, so I ask everybody if they would be interested in learning more about how to make money with doTERRA. And then you just touch up, you let them say yes or no, and if they say yes, you say great. And you just do a very simple explanation of what it is that you do as a business. You say, great, well, here's how it works. Just go around having conversations similar to the one that I had when you were enrolled. So I'm thinking if this person's already been enrolled in doTERRA, right? But if you've just done a class with somebody or just had a one-on-one with them, they have seen how simple it is, right? And this is part of it, is throughout this whole process, we're making it really simple, we're making it fun. So it's easy to be able to talk to somebody and say, like, this is simple and it's fun, and I hope you guys are having fun in your business. I really do, because you are going to attract totally different people. And most of us, I would say, want to be around somebody that, and it's not that we have to intrinsically see like, oh, I'm super fun. I wouldn't view myself and be like, oh, I'm so fun, right? But I enjoy doing doTERRA. It brings me a lot of enjoyment, and I think people can see that, and they are attracted to somebody that actually likes what they do for their work, right? People want to be around positive people, especially to work with. So, so I say something like, so here's how it works. You go around, I'm just reading right here, you guys. I'm having conversations just like the one I had, which was pretty simple, right? And I can show you how to do that. So you'll earn commission on each sell, and as your customers repeat their orders and your team members grow, you'll earn additional bonuses. And what a lot of people love about it is the flexibility. And after that, you know, after a little while, the residual income. So is this something that you would like to learn more about? So you've already asked them, do you want to learn a little bit about the business? You tell them what that entails. Do you want to learn more, right? And if they say yes, I would say great. So what we do is I'll set up a time where me and you can meet, and we'll go over the business. It takes about 30 minutes. And we're just going to see if it's a good fit for you. We're going to go over and we'll answer any questions, additional questions that you have. But I'll tell you a little bit more about how to get started and what it would look like for you in your life, and kind of customize it. So how does that sound? You're like, okay, that sounds great. So what I then do is I'm talking to someone when we're sitting down, right, and we're having the actual conversation. So I always schedule that ahead of time so that we've got that 30 minutes. And I usually don't do it when we're doing like oil stuff. I try to separate the two because it can just get so much and meddled together that I think it's overwhelming for somebody if they're just learning how to use their oils. Sometimes it's nice to just learn how to use your oils for like maybe even a month and then jump into the business if they're really interested in that. That said, if someone's like, I want to start doing this as a business right away, then that's awesome too, and we can definitely help with that. But I would try to have time where you talk about the business and then time when you talk about the oils, just separated a little bit. And then when you're at that appointment, I've got this little script here, and I use this in conjunction with doTERRA's build guide that they just brought out. So I am going to show you guys that too. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Raise your hand if you've seen that. I can see everybody. So you've seen that build guide? Okay. So I think most of us have. Hi, Amanda. I'm glad you're on. Okay. Well, we're going to like jump in depth a little bit more on that this evening. So I go over the agenda. Again, you guys, we want to be really clear and upfront. We want to help people know what the heck we're going to be talking about when we sit down with them. So we're going to learn about their goals, and I'm talking with them. I'm going to say, so I'm going to learn about you and a little bit more about your goals. And then we're going to talk about what it takes to do this as a business and how our compensation plan works. And then we'll talk about how to get started and what the next, like your next steps are. So my part's going to take 30 minutes. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we go over today? All right. I'm going to pause here for a second. I want you guys to just write down really quick, if you've got like a pencil that you're doing, on a notepad here, write down if you have ever had a business concert, like a business overview with somebody, if you've ever sat down and talked to somebody else about the business. So you can just write yes or no. And then the second thing I want you to do is write down how you felt that went. Like, what were your feelings behind that? All right, and then you can just unmute or you can write in the chat. Write down if you've ever had a business consult. You guys feel free to unmute yourselves. And then what were some of those feelings that came up if you have had that before, the business overview before?
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
So the first time I had the business conversation, I had only been a builder for like 3 weeks. And I didn't know what I was talking about, but I was so excited that she was too. And it went pretty well, but luckily I have Catherine as my upline, and she was able to help us through and get through it. It worked out really well. The second time I did it, I had been doing it for a little bit longer. I really didn't have a script, and I wasn't really comfortable with the person. I really didn't know what I was talking about, and I think I confused them all the more, and it didn't work out so well. So the third time, I had been talking to this person for a long time, and finally she's like, yes, I absolutely want to do this. So it was a series of several different conversations. So each time was different. I think I learned the most from the second time when it was just a total flop, and I wasn't prepared, and I was excited, but I really didn't know what I was talking about. And now, since doing the Emerge training and having all the support, I'm more comfortable with it. It's still a little scary, but
so Karen, in your experience, has it been helpful to have a script to kind of fall back on?
Yes. Like if I didn't have that script, I think it would have gone back to the time where the second time I did it, where I really wasn't sure and I was getting somewhat negative feelings and confusion from that person. I was feeding off of that and just kind of floundering as what do I say next? And then I didn't make it look easy. I made it look really uncomfortable and really hard. So
right, they're like, I don't think this one is for me because
I would never want to do that. You don't even know what you're talking about. So
because awkward.
yes. So
Okay.
just having that script has really been the script for everything is something to fall back on when a question comes up that you're not prepared for. You kind of have a series of what you're going to say. So you are prepared. And yeah,
Perfect.
without the script, I couldn't do it.
And question for you guys, how likely are you to actually want to talk to people about the business? I mean, legitimately really want to, if you don't know what the heck you're going to say, right? Are you going to really want to talk to people about the business if you're nervous about talking to them about the business, right? Or if you don't have a script, you don't know what you're going to be saying to them, it's a lot harder to ask people, and not even just ask them, but I promise you your energy, they're going to feel that and they're going to be like, #awkward, and be like, no, that's okay, right? Even if they would have been someone that would be a great prospect. So I wanted to pause there for a second because I think a lot of us have had similar experiences, Karen, where, you know, either we haven't talked about the business yet to anybody, or we're just starting to do it and it's kind of, we're like stumbling through it. We're not really sure how to go from there. So I love having a script and getting it down really well, and then being able to vary from that as just the conversation flows. But if it gets to be really off topic, I can just point back down to my script and be like, okay, we're right back here again, right? So this is why I feel like it's super, super important that we have that script. So I'm going to keep going and chatting with you guys about how to have this business overview, but my challenge to you is going to be to give the business overview to someone this week. Now, if you don't have a prospect in mind that's interested in learning about the business, then you can share it with your husband, all right? You can do it with your mom or your sister or a friend or your kid, right? But you need to say it out loud to somebody else so that you can start to get comfortable with that. Start to feel what it feels like, all right? It's just like teaching a class. The first couple of times it's going to be a little rough probably, and that's totally okay. We're going to get better as we keep going, and that's understandable, but you've actually got to try it and you've got to start doing that. And so I want to make sure that when that opportunity arises, that you're going to be ready for it. And you guys, if you're not ready for it, the opportunity won't arise. And if it does, you're going to totally, totally miss it. All right? And all of that said, I don't think there's anything that you can say that's going to totally turn somebody off. And there's nothing, you're never going to say it perfectly right so that someone is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do it because they said this one thing, right? So chill out on, you know, thinking that you're going to say the wrong thing or the right thing to somebody, and just know that it's going to be fine. But I think there's definitely, we need to have preparation. So here's what it looks like. You give the agenda to them, and then you get really curious about them. I love doing business overviews with people because this is my time to really get to know somebody as a person and get to know some of their goals. And you guys, people will open up and they'll tell you, like, I want to get out of debt, right? Or they'll start talking about some of their dreams, that they want to be able to put their kids into this or to that. And you know, to me, this is really motivating to be like, oh my gosh, I so want this for them. So let's jump into this a little bit more and say, so let's start by learning more about you and your goals. So I'm going to ask you some questions so we have a better idea of how doTERRA would fit into your life. So what we're really doing here, you guys, is we're helping them see that doTERRA is not going to take over their lives, right? But here's how it's just going to add into their lives. So we might start with, what are your income goals with doTERRA? And you've got to give them some suggestions because they have no clue what they could be making with doTERRA, all right? So I would say, for instance, do you want to get your essential oils for free every month, like a couple $100 or more? Or do you want to cover the mortgage? So we're talking a couple thousand, or maybe even replace your current income. So like, $5,000 to $10,000 a month. So what would be your income goals with doTERRA? And then you're just quiet and you just let them answer whatever they answer. And whatever they answer, you get to say, great, I'm totally on board with that. That sounds awesome. So then you get to go to the second question. And I just have a sheet of paper and I just write those answers down for them. So, and I say, so this business is all about working with people and building relationships and connections with people. So what are some of your strengths in this area? So I see, Nicole, you wrote in the chat, I get a lot of, I'll think about it, but I don't see myself doing that. And I think this is a powerful question to help people see like themselves doing that. So asking people what some of their strengths are in being able to build relationships or connections with people. And I think that's a powerful thing. Help them start seeing themselves and some of their strengths. And if you know the person well, you can also chime in to some of that and say, and I also see one of your strengths as, blah-de-da. Like, you're really empathetic with people, and that can be really helpful in this business. And then getting past some of the challenges. So a lot of times people won't really tell you what their challenges are unless you actually ask. So I love this conversation again, this question. So after they've said what their strengths are, you can say, so what do you feel some of your challenges may be? Because of course there's challenges for everyone. Everyone's got little doubts, little voices in their back of their head, right? And sometimes just them voicing them helps them see, one, sometimes they're totally ridiculous, right? Or two, what those, hurdles are to get over and to help them overcome those. I want to address those challenges during this chat. This is just a conversational piece. So if it's a really quick thing to overcome, but I generally wouldn't do that during this time. Those would be things that we would mentor on throughout. If they said, yeah, I want to do this more. And then you can ask them what their average week looks like and how could we schedule in some doTERRA time, or where could that fit, right? So we want to help them see, you probably have some extra hours that you're, allotting to watching to TV at night, or, or there's some times where, oh yeah, both me and my husband are home and he could probably watch the kids while I went and taught a class, kind of thing. All right. So I'm going to switch over really quick here and show you what this looks like on sorry, I don't think that's what I really wanted. I'm trying to move this.
Brittany?
Yeah.
While you're doing that, I have a question.
Okay,
so
yes.
I have probably 4 or 5 folks that are interested in building. They've been sharing. Some of them have enrolled here and there. Do you think this, and I've never really had any kind of formalized meeting or chat with them with these types of questions. Do you think, even though they've already started, that would be a good place to kind of go back and like start from square one to get both of us on the same page and maybe help them refocus?
Yeah, I think this would be such a great thing. So have they enrolled anybody yet?
Yes, some of them have. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I would just go back through and I'd say, hey, so the other thing that's going to be great is if you teach them this, right, that this is how we talk to someone about the business, then they have this in their skill set now, right? So it's also about modeling this for them as they come in and showing them, this is how we talk to someone about the business, right? So, but I think getting them on the same page, how powerful to know someone's goals with doTERRA. For me, this is like a must. I want to know the people that I'm working with. I want to know their goals so that I can better support them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more invested in them, and I want to be invested in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what's going on in their lives. I want to know how can I help them. So for me, this is a really important step that I do.
Has this helped you weed out the people that maybe think they want to do the business, but after finishing, you have second thoughts as to whether they're really going to be successful?
I try not to like I guess sift people out on my own. Do I have initial thoughts about people? Yeah, of course I do. So I don't know if this conversation necessarily does. If they're telling me like, oh, there's nowhere I can fit this into my life, right? Then I'll be like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you, right? So there's times where I'm like, of course, you have to actually make time if you're going to be starting a business, and that's what you're doing here. You're starting a business. Can you share very casually? Can you do 3 to 5 hours a week? But if they can't commit to like 3 or 5 hours a week, then they're just sharing doTERRA very casually, and I wouldn't, have mentor calls with them, or I wouldn't expect a lot from them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's kind of where. Okay, I am going to do this screen share thing again. All right, so for those of you that have seen the build guide, super pretty. For those of you that haven't, here's the beginning. And you can just download this from, I just Googled this. I just put in doTERRA build guide, and it was like the first link that popped up. All right. So as we chat with somebody and I kind of get that information, I say, so, well, let me tell you a little bit about why a lot of people want to build with doTERRA and find this such a great opportunity. So there's just this quick little story about a guy who's sitting here hauling buckets back and forth to a little town. So he went to the river, got his bucket of water, and then he went back to the town and he sold the water. But every day he'd have to do this, and he just basically traded his time for some money, right? And then he had the idea of, instead of just carrying the buckets back and forth every day, that he would build a trench and start to lay pipes down from the river all the way to the town. And eventually, after laying all of these pipes, he got into the town and he hooked it up to the spigot, and he no longer had to put in all this time, but the water came on demand, and then he had a continual source of income, because every time they turned on that spigot, he didn't have to put time into that, but he still got revenue from that. And that's how doTERRA works. So in the beginning, right, we're sharing essential oils, and it's just one person at a time, and it seems really slow, but as customers continue to order from you, that pipeline of people that continues to purchase underneath you grows, and that's going to give you a residual income. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how doTERRA works. Does that make sense? And you'll just want to ask those kinds of questions, like, does that make sense, as you're going through? Because it's going to re-engage them again and just help them be like, oh yeah, I get that. And so you can just, I quickly go over some of this, and some of the stuff I don't touch base on. So I think it's important for you to go through the build guide yourself and say, like, this is really important to me, and I bet it's going to be important to other people. And so you can touch base on that. You can't go over everything in the build guide in 30 minutes and talk with them and everything else, right? It's just too much. So you're going to have to highlight some of the things. But that little story, I think, is one, as we tell stories, it just connects to people and it helps them a little bit better. And I talk a little tiny bit about doTERRA as the company and just how much growth they've had. And I love that they're different, because we really lead with a product that's just amazing, which they probably already know. And I skip most of this stuff because I've already kind of just told them, right? All you're going to be doing in the beginning is just teaching other people about essential oils and how to do that. So I go, there's tons of information in here about how to earn money and all of that stuff. And if you really do want to get started in the business, we'll cover more of that stuff, but it's not really the time we want to go over it right now. But I kind of have them come down here to this last page. And we've already talked about it a little bit in me just asking them questions when I asked them if they wanted to get their product paid for or supplement their income or replace their income. All right. And so I'll just come down here and I'll check mark whatever one they said. And if their time doesn't match up, so maybe they told me, oh my gosh, well, I would love to replace my income and I can work 3 hours a week, right? I'll come here and I say, so typically to replace your income, you need to really work this as like a part-time. Not to say that you can't work 3 hours a week and build up to this, but it's going to take you quite a bit longer. And that's just the reality of it. Does that make sense? So I just try to help them see if there's a disalignment with how much time they want to put into their income level. And I just let those speak for themselves and not let them, not me put all of the information towards there. And I say, so if you're ready to get started with your business, there's really 3 steps that we need to get going. So the first step is, and typically people are already enrolled where I'm having this conversation. So I'll say the first step is one that we've already covered, where we're just living a wellness lifestyle. So this is you continuing to use your oils and learn about them. How does that sound to you? And they're like, great, I love the oils, right? That's why they're thinking of doing this as a business. And then I say, now the next step is that we want to make sure that you're sharing with people. And so we're going to be able to create a list of people. And as you've been using the oils, you probably have thought of family and friends that you want to share with. So we're just going to write those down. And then we're going to teach you how to have those conversations to share with them. And then I just say, now based on the hours that you've told me, I kind of fill this in for them. And you can just go back to here based on the hours that they told you, if they're 3 to 5 a week or 10 to 15 or 15 to 30, right? They're going to go in one of those spots. So if they're working like full time in doTERRA, they might be able to hit elite in those first 30 days if we really focus in on that, right? Or it might be 60 or 90 days. So we can say choose your pace. So you guys, I always see these numbers and I'm like, I don't know very many people that do that. They hit those numbers. So I don't know this target or this average where that comes from, but I just always think it's important to still set a goal. And my goal really for people is usually 10 conversations in a month. I want to help somebody get through their first 10 conversations. They feel like those first 10 are going to help them get set up for success. So that's maybe the goal that I will kind of write in there for them. It's a little more concrete than this elite. Like, what the heck is elite? They don't really know that yet. So for me, I just write in here, I say, now for launching your business, we want to just make sure that we get 10 people that you can talk to. So when we come down here, you can write in 30 people and we're going to try to get 10 of those people to just have a conversation with you. And it can be really simple and you're going to walk them through how to have those conversations, right? But that's pretty much those first 3 steps in talking to somebody about the business. And I typically leave it up to them, put it in their, basically back in their court. So they need to get back to me. I'll check back in with them. We'll set a time where I'm going to check back in with them. And I'll say, when do you think you could have like your list of names by? And they'll tell me, oh, I can have this done, you know, in a week or tomorrow, whatever they say, then I check back in with them at that time. So, and then we just continue mentoring on from there, where we have weekly or monthly check-ins based on their level of commitment to doTERRA. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to open it back up to any questions because I know we just went over 1 minute. But if you guys have other questions, I would love to hear them. How does that feel to you guys? Does that seem doable to have a script? If it's helpful to have the build guide out there, you can have that. If it seems distracting, you don't have to have that even. So I think for some people that are a little more visual, it's helpful. Go ahead, Nicole.
How do you think is the best way to go about explaining the $100 order that they would have to place every month? Because that's where I get some challenge, like, oh, I don't know if I'm, ready for that order. Or I've tried to spin it a few different ways as far as like replacing everything.
Yeah.
But that's sometimes that's an issue.
Okay. Let me just find, there's actually a script in here that I love. Where is this at? I'll try to look for it and see if I can't find it. But here's how I explain it to people. I say, so getting started with doTERRA is super simple. You've already got your kit, yay. Now, the other requirement from doTERRA is that you have a $100 LRP. They call it a loyalty rewards order. There's tons of perks with it, and it's totally free to be on that LRP. But the reason that they have you order 100, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, they're really looking out for you. And this is a tax deduction that you get to make, which I think is brilliant on doTERRA's part. Because it's required in order to make commissions with doTERRA, it's tax deductible. So yay, that's tax deductible. So I spin it as, you're doing this as a business, so get the business write-off, right? Which literally is a really awesome thing. So that's one thing to do. And the other is I say, and you're going to be using these products yourself. doTERRA wants to make sure that you're a product of the product, right? We don't want people going out there and just toting buy essential oils and they're not really using them themselves. That's really not what we're here to do. We want to educate, and part of that education is using them ourselves. And the other part of it is I know Emerge teaches that they actually teach, use half of that 100 for your own personal, and then use the other half as any retailing out. So people often will just retail out. You'll have a couple people that just want to buy an oil here, an oil there. And so you can get some retail in the very beginning as people are just getting up and going, so they don't feel like they're out a whole bunch of money. I don't want people to be out all of that money in the beginning, right? I want to make sure that they're earning money as quick as possible. So that's kind of how I spend the $100. Does that sound?
That's good, yeah.
Okay. And I just assume that, like, duh, you will want to spend that. But I gotta say, when I first started, that was one of my hangups. We were brand new out of college, and we really weren't. I mean, my husband was making pretty good money, but I was in this mindset of like super thrifty. And I was like, well, I will do this as a business and I will help you, but I don't know how I'm going to use $100 worth of oils every single month. Those words literally came out of my mouth, which I can't believe, but they did. And that was like month 1 that I got started. And by month 2, I had $400 in my cart. And I was like, I can't take anything out. I need it all. Like, it wasn't I had to have it all, which I did buy it all. So I just kind of joke with people, and I was like, I get it because I was there, but I promise you, these oils will just take over your life in such a good way and replace so many things. And that's where you can go into, and they're just going to replace a ton of stuff. I replaced tons of stuff that I was using or buying from Target or other places, right? So anyway, that's kind of where I go with it too. So, all right, you guys, I am going to say good night. Thank you so much for being on. Nicole, thank you for the great question. And Jillian, and everybody else that asked questions, thank you guys. And Amanda, good luck about talking to your first person this next week. I'm super excited. Come back next week and let us know how it went. Good, bad, tell us everything. Not bad, there's no bad ever, but just learning what you learned. So, all right, you guys, we will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.